Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today will be a slightly different video in that I will try to help some of you, or any one of you, who may be trying to get into the historic Brawl format. So, just a quick caveat, I've been playing the game for quite a few years now, and as you can see from the amount of decks I've got, yeah, you could say I've built quite a lot of decks. So I thought it would be an interesting and somewhat important video to show new people trying to get in the format. Okay, so many of you will come from standard. The first thing you want to do though when you are in the editor is go to Historic Brawl. This filters everything for you. So those of you who come from standard, don't fret, or even historic, or even perhaps commander in paper, the first thing I would do is find a general that you love, because essentially if you have a passion for something, you want it to be good, right? That's the logic. So find a general that you absolutely adore and love, and as you can see here, I have a lot of generals. So, you know, if you're a bit stuck on one to choose, what I would suggest is to choose perhaps a colour or two that you like. So let's just go for blue and black, for instance. And as you can see on the top here, if you can't find blue and black, what I suggest is press this gold circle here, and that will filter to everything with blue and black in the colours. So the difference from Historic Brawl to Commander is you can also use Planeswalkers, so that's why you see things like Ashok, Dream Render. And yeah, so the most important thing, pick something you love for your first ever deck. And you know what, it doesn't matter if it wins or it loses, as long as you have fun. That's the most important part. Okay, so keep that in mind. So as we take a look through our generals, you might be looking and saying, oh, what have we got here? Maybe the cards on the latest set, there's something you're interested in, or maybe not, maybe you're more of an old school player. But yeah, in this case I'm just going to randomly choose Atris, so you can drag that into your commander box, and then what I like to do is just name it Historic Brawl, HB for short, and just give it a funky name or just the name of the general, but for now we'll just keep it Atris, keep it simple. So my collection will be different to all of yours out there. Of course, we've had different experiences playing the game, we've all started at different points, but if you're coming from standard or historic, then obviously your card pool will look very different, because you'll probably have lots and lots of copies of the same card, so play sets of the same card. So I was in the same boat as yourself, but one good thing about transitioning from these powerful 60 card formats is that you'll already probably have a lot of staples in those colours. So if that's something that you're interested in building around, like powerful staples, what I would suggest is going to the filter and then clicking rare and mythic rare. Now for now, we don't need to worry about cards you don't own, so leave the not collected unticked and just go for the rare and mythic rares. Click OK, and now you'll see every card you own that's a rare or mythic. Now this is a fantastic way to start building decks, because essentially the rares and mythics in Magic Arena, Magic the Gathering the game, will be the backbone of your deck. These will be the cards that will pull all the way and will most probably lead you to the most amount of victories. So this is the most important and vital step that I would recommend to you. Now it might be simple to some of you who've played this game for a long time now, but you know, this might not be the video for you, but if you stick around you might learn a few things. So yeah, I think the number one thing about Historic Brawl that people forget is lands are super important. So this would be a good segue to start with the lands. So if you hit the land icon here, it will filter everything by the rare and mythic lands that you have. Now yes, as you can see, I've got a lot of rares, and it will take time, but I'll show you a way later to potentially farm gold to get more rares. And yeah, so what I'm going to do here is essentially start filling the deck with the lands that I have. And I might not explain everything, but essentially you want as many lands that come in untapped as possible. But stuff like Temple of Deceit is good because it comes in, it scries one. So if you're sacrificing the land coming in tapped for a little ability like this, then I would say it's probably highly recommended. The strongest lands in the format right now are probably the shock lands and the pathways, pretty good for 2-color decks. And the check lands as well, they come in and see if you've got an island or a swamp. You can get these cards in every colour pairing. Another great addition to the deck will be the new cycle from Crimson Vow, which comes in unless you kill 2 or more of the lands, which is pretty common. You'll probably be playing these late game, so put one of those in. And then an auto shoe-in will be the Neon Dynasty Kamigawan lands as well, because these are incredible legendary lands. Obviously legendary doesn't really matter in this form because it's a one-of anyway, so that's not a downside. So definitely put those in because they do so much. So we go for the Otawara, fantastic as well. This is essentially a removal spell that can't be countered, which is very important. So we'll just keep building the land base here whilst I talk about some more utility, I guess. So Castle Lock Thwain is really good. So this is a good land because it gives you card advantage, which is something really important that the game basically needs you to have, otherwise you're kind of going to miss out. So just for argument's sake, let's just say these are all the lands I want to put in of this rarity. Then what I would do next is just tick these off, just go to basic lands, and then choose your favourite lands. I like these full art ones from Thorough, so all you have to do now is click it once and it will add it to your pool at the bottom. And then once they're there, you can then switch the view here with the arrow and then increase the number. Now let's just see how many we get when we add these up. So something I would recommend in this format is I've tended to gone up in the numbers of lands. So I used to play about 37 to 38, but the algorithm is actually really evil, and it will give you it will give you awful hands. So I think somewhere around 40 is good. I will shorten that to 40 rather than 41 here. Just take an arbitrary land off. So now you can see in the stats, very important, exactly what you have. So let's just say, argument's sake, you've got the lands at 40, okay? So the next thing I would recommend is, depending on your colours, so if you're green, you'll have a lot of ramp in those colours, but because we're blue-black, we don't have any natural ramp in blue and black, so we're going to have to go to colourless. And then I'd filter by artifacts just so we know exactly what we're looking for here. So now I'd say the second most important part of the deck is the ramp. Now ramp is deceptive because it doesn't seem that good when you first play the game, because you think, oh, it's a boring dead card that doesn't really do much. But ramp essentially allows you to play things one turn earlier than you're meant to. So let's think about that in simple terms. If your opponent goes first, they'll have one land out. If you go second, you'll have one land out, so then you're at parity, correct? But then on the opponent's second turn, if they then play something like an Arcane Signet, which we'll just slot in here, they are now at 3 mana essentially on turn 2. Now they've accelerated to +1 than you have. So if you think about how many turns a game of Magic really lasts, realistically, think about that. Let's say it's about 6 to 7 turns, just on average. By increasing the mana you have, you are increasing how close you are to getting critical mass. And what do I mean by critical mass? Well, critical mass is essentially the amount of permanents and spells you have used in order to defeat your foes. Now the Command Zone had a really good video about this. They were talking about the person that wins the most games of Commander is normally the person that spent the most amount of mana. So let's look at the mana we're going to put in. The optimum mana value of rocks these days, I'll say, is 2 to 3 mana. Now 2 mana, stuff like Arcane Signet, Spell Satchel is borderline okay. You probably want to put this in a more spell heavy deck, but basically any 2 mana rocks that tap for 1 additional mana or more, and there's quite a lot of these, stuff like Guardian Idol. There's argument to be made about Goldvein Pick as well, because this can equip to a creature. When that creature hits, you get a treasure. Treasures are really important as well. And let's see what else we have. We've got Mind Stone. So this is good because this also draws you a card later on if you get desperate. You've also got the Ornithopter of Paradise, which is really useful. I'd say Pill of Origins is good if you have a tribal deck, but I wouldn't put it in a deck otherwise. So basically seeing the all-time greats here at 2 mana. You could argue that Treasure Map also gets you into ramp. So I'm going to put this in here actually because it's pretty cool. It can scroll you 1, and then if there are 3 more landmark counters on it, remove them and transform it, and it gives you 3 treasures when this flips. So this can accelerate you really fast. Starting from turn 2 to 3, get this out, flip it. It's very difficult to deal with, plus 3 mana is a lot. So put those in. So now we're starting to get to the 3 mana section. So a few words about 3 mana. So for 3 mana, you want to be careful because there's a lot of artifact and enchantment removal in the format. So if you're playing 3 mana ramp spells, they have to be incredibly good. Now, I'm a huge fan of Chromatic Lantern. However, only in 3 color decks or more, because in 2 color decks, your mana's pretty good. And yeah, if you're playing 3+ colors, this just fixes your mana, and it means you're basically playing easy mode for thinking. And the less thinking you do, the more effective you'll be. That's exactly how I would normally explain it to people. You've got stuff like Dragon Sword, which is good, adds any colour, but also if you play a dragon, it comes in, puts a counter on this, you could draw a card. So, for argument's sake, let's just put in any old three mana rocks, just to build it up. Replicating ring is nice as well, because once this goes to 8 counters, remove them all, and you get 8 of these, and at that point you can pretty much cast anything in the entire game. Palladium is good because it gives you 2. This is pretty rare ability, because if you played Commander, you'll know the card Worn Power Stone. This is the closest you'll have to Worn Power Stone in the format. It's obviously a lot weaker because it can die. So it's difficult to say exactly how many mana rocks you should include in the deck. I'd say we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's just say around 10, because that's how many I use in Commander. That might sound a lot to some people, but honestly, it's not. So at this point, we've got half the deck built around just the mana. Now, I think this is the first hurdle for a lot of people, because a lot of people are asking me how to get into Historic Brawl, and I'd say this is a good start. Because once you have half your deck filled, think about it this way, you now only have to think of 49 cards to put in the deck, right? 49. You've literally halved your problems. You now only have to think about 49 cards. Now that doesn't seem like much, right? But remember, consistency is fun, because there's nothing worse than having to auto quit a game because your hand doesn't have any mana or any rocks. Remember that. It's very important. Now, another note on basics, which I did miss the first time around, you don't want to have too few basics, because you need the reliability of lands coming in untapped. Now, 30 might seem a lot, and it probably is, but this is just an example. I'd probably even cut down to 12 and put a few more duels in and a few more colourless lands. But remember, the more colours in your deck, the fewer colourless lands you should include, because you don't want to be stuck in a game when you cannot cast your spells because your land's tapped for colourless. Okay, that's a very important point. So once we've got the lands and the ramp sorted, I think the next thing we'll do is we'll go to some card advantage. So we are currently looking at the artifact cards, so we probably won't stay in this section too long, but what I would recommend is just a few staples in colourless that allow you to push ahead in the game. And I think just yeah, we'll just put some rough choices in. Remember, this is just my opinion. You don't have to agree. In fact, many of you will disagree, but this is just a guide. So artifact is great. 2 mana, comes in, draws your card, loses 2 life. Beginning of your upkeep, you will pay 2. If you do, draw a card and you lose 2 life. So it repeats itself over and over again. This is really useful. Put one of those in. Remember, it's colourless, so it's really easy to cast. What else do we have? We'll come back to the other sections later on. We'll just go card advantage here. Maze Mind Tome, really good, lets you scry and draw cards. Probably recommend that. Now remember, we are in blue and black, so we will have a lot of other ways to draw, but this is just a few utility pieces in colourless. Tome of Legends as well, really good. You'll notice that I have a lot of 2-drops, and that's fine, because we kind of want to stay aggressive. Essentially, because I don't think Atris... I mean, you could make it like a reanimator deck, but yeah, it's good to have... I think 2-drops is the sweet spot in Historic Brawl, just because it allows you to... have consistent games. That's the main reason. So I think we'll call it a day for those for now, for those 3, and then we'll start looking into card advantage proper. So now what I'll do is filter by blue and black, and then go back to the rare mythics, which is really important. This might not work necessarily for everyone, but then what I will do is just put in the word draw. Now, this is very simplistic. This is probably not the way a lot of people build, but it can be handy, especially with Arena having so many cards now. It's not like Paper Magic where you can just open your folder and just go to the cards you know with the draw. But yes, here we can filter by draw and see what we get. So a lot of people seem to like Brainstorm, so probably put that in to please people. It's useful. It's not the best. I'm not a huge fan of this unless you are doing Scry. But in this case, it's really good with Atris, because Atris cares about the top of your deck, and Brainstorm lets you set that up. So this is already a nice piece of synergy. Confounding Conundrum is really good versus green decks. So if you think about card advantage as one of 2 things, there are the cards that replace themselves. They're called cantrips. So a card that comes in and gives you a card and replace itself, like Confiding Conundrum and Brainstorm to some extent. And then there's actual card advantage. So that would be cards that say draw 2 cards, draw 3. So anything that draws you more than 1 and lets you keep more than 1 is, in my opinion, card advantage. Everything else is normally, I would call, a cantrip or filtration. That's important to remember. So something like Filthup is really cool because it comes in and it draws you a card. So this is technically card replacement, but at the same time it does give you 1 back. So it gives you a blocker and a body. So this is actually a lot more useful than people give it credit for. It's surprising how useful something like this can be to block for a planeswalker you have, or so on and so forth. So keep that in mind. Try to keep your deck with a good spread of each. You don't want all your cards to just be replacement, because eventually you want a way to permanently draw cards to add to your hand that don't go away. So Jacob Hawken is a really powerful combo creature. Lets you draw then exile, but that's still replacement until you pay the 6 mana, and then you're getting card advantage because you're playing those spells for free. So yeah, let's put stuff like that in. Remember, you know, it's meant to be a fun format. This is meant to teach people how to build for yourself. So the net deckers out there might not essentially like this video, but I guess it's just not for them. So now in the colourful section, you might notice you starting to find other cards that fit into your deck. So imagine deck building like a huge puzzle. You start with the basics, the edges of the puzzle, so these are the edges, and you work your way into the centre. That should be how you build, and as you're building along, the cards should generally synergise with Atris. Yeah, so just, you know, we'll put Midnight Clock in because it's good in a few ways. It ramps you, it puts the cards from your graveyard back into your deck, so it stops you from milling yourself if you've done Atris too many times. It's just generally useful. And yeah, we probably might not finish the whole deck, but you're just going through a few principles of what makes a deck. And we'll just start sliding stuff in, I suppose. You've got Drawn from Dreams, which is a great way to just draw cards. A note on Planeswalkers in 1v1 formats like Historic Brawl, I think they're very good, because if you can't deal with them, they will take the game over, so be very careful. In Commander, they're nowhere near as good because you have 3 opponents that are constantly gunning for them, and it's very difficult to defend. But one-on-one, if you have ways to protect your Planeswalker, then it's probably really good. And yeah, try not to scrutinise me for the cards I put in this example deck, but we're just going to literally put in cards to help you just kind of gain an idea of what you can put in. Gadwick's a great example of card advantage because he draws X. This kind of spell is immense, and this is exactly why blue is so powerful. In medium type games, you'll notice a lot of tier 1 players, they just want to counter the hell out of all your cards. This deck style of building might not be for tier 1 players, but I think it will help most new people at least get an understanding. So yeah, we'll put a Gadwick in, excuse me. For cards that draw X, I wouldn't recommend more than 1 or 2 of these, because if you go back to what I said earlier, how long an average game lasts? 6 to 7 turns. So imagine you drew multiples. Let's say you had Gadwick and Pull from Tomorrow, right? Both X spells. But in a one-on-one game, how much is X really going to be before you're dead? Most people kill you by turn 7 and 8, a lot sooner in some cases. So you just have to think realistically. Putting too many of these into your deck will overbloat the deck and make it a lot harder to cast. And that's exactly why I've got a lot of 2-drops, because you can, if you have a turn when you pop it off lots of 2-drops, you're adding value to the field, adding a presence to the field, and creating a threat for yourself, right? So if you see lots of rocks out, what do you want to do? Answer that question. You want to kill them, don't you? If an opponent has average CMC or average mana value of like 4 or 5, and they're not doing anything until turn 4 or 5, and they have nothing on the field for the first 3 turns, how do you feel? You feel safe, don't you? You feel absolutely safe. So you know, sometimes you have to put the shoe on the other foot and kind of analyze it from the other perspective. Silent Blood, really good. So when you get into black mana, obviously Black's whole ethos is they sacrifice life to draw. So you have to be careful, because if you don't have life gaining in the deck, then you may struggle. I really like stuff like Argyle's Bloodfast because it's consistent draw. Again, it costs you life, but if you build in a way, that means you don't mind losing a bit of life. Yeah, pop one of those guys in. So how many cards do we have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And yeah, tell you what, Affecting Union, that's really good. So just remember, this is just an example. So now we've got about 10 draw. So I've got a bit of OCD, so I like things to be neat and tidy. So as you can see, we've got 40 lands, 10 rocks, and we've got about 10 ways to draw. So don't forget, you can look in here, look at all the breakdown of your card types here. Really handy if you try to build tribal as well. Take a note of all the types that are displayed here. That will inform you of your decisions, help you build decks like Volo, which is quite tough to make unless you know all the types. So now what I would recommend is start putting some removal in, and as you can imagine, try and put about 10 in. That's what I'd say. So you want the most versatile removal as possible. So we're going to look at black mostly here, because blue is mostly counter spells and tempo based things like bouncing. Tempo, by the way, if you don't know what that means, is just another word for time. And if games equals time, then tempo cards will buy you an extra turn, right? So if you bounce a permanent to an opponent's hand, you will buy yourself one turn, but you are not ridding yourself of that problem, you are delaying it. And that's why it's called tempo. Something like Baleful Mastery is really good, because this can permanently get rid of your opponent's creatures or planeswalkers. So I'd like to put this in, because not only is this a 4-mana spell, it can also be a 2-mana spell. So you decide where you want to put this in. I would average it at home. If I was putting these piles out on my desk, I would put Baleful Mastery at 3.5. Wait, 2, 4, yeah. So actually it'd be more like 3, right? So don't forget, you can manually move the cards to the mana value piles you think. But yeah, just for now, we'll just leave it. But don't forget, it's quite versatile. You can move stuff around. Don't forget, if you save and come back, they will all revert back to the default positions of their mana value. So keep that in mind. When you put removal in the deck, you want to basically have fairly cheap removal, because the thing is, the more expensive removal you have, the harder time you're going to have versus aggro and mid-range. If all your removal spells cost 4, 5, 6 mana, then you are going to die so fast. So fast. So let's just go for destroy. Let's put the keyword destroy and see what comes up here. So remember, this is just rare cards for now. Just to make it easy for yourself. Just filter by what you have. And sometimes you just have to make do with what you have, because obviously you're not going to have every card. I don't have every card. So some good cards in these colours will be stuff like Murderous Rider. Murderous Rider is good because it's so versatile. It kills a creature or planeswalker. Again, you lose life. There's a bit of a losing a life theme here. But then when it comes out as a creature, it's a 2/3 lifelinker. So again, good blocker, fairly decent attacker, and I've lost to this card, you know. It's just versatile. So think about cards that do 2 or more things. So Adventures are really good. Silumgar's Command, although it's 5 mana, it does do 2 amazing things. It can negate something, bounce something, return a permanent, it can destroy planeswalker. It's so versatile. So again, modal cards, fantastic. Stuff like Blood in the Snow is good, but make sure you don't make the same mistake as me and put some snowlands in your deck. Currently, we don't have any snowlands in the deck, so you'd have to quickly swap these out for snowlands, which are common, so they're free. But yeah, this is a great card. It's 6 mana, but it's still good. Ritual of Soot, good board wipe. So you want to have a good mixture of board wipes and not board wipes. I've heard the argument that people who play aggro shouldn't play board wipes. I dispute this, because that's coming from a perspective that you're always ahead. But what happens when you're behind? Let's say the opponent's just killed all your creatures, and then now they're setting up their aggro field, and you don't have board wipes. What are you going to do? You're just going to suffer, aren't you? You have to have answers for everything. That's just the way the format is, unfortunately. But yeah, Doomblade used to be good, but it's risky. The artwork's beautiful, but yeah, this isn't even a rare. It's just the fact that the variant is a rare. So if you don't see things in the rarity that you're looking at, one thing I would recommend is switch it down a bit. So go to common, and this should open the world up to you. So now we're looking at technically less optimal cards because of the rarity shift, but you'll find a lot of removal is at this rarity, because I'm pretty sure it's because of limited and the way limited works. They want to actually give people answers to threats. So if you don't know what limited is, it's basically draft and sealed. When you play that, you're passing cards around in a circle, picking one from each pack. If removal was rare in packs, no creatures would ever die, and that's the reason why removal is uncommon. So we've got really good cards here. Eliminate, pretty decent. Kills creature planeswalker, again, versatility, really useful. Bloodchief's Thirst, really useful. Kills artifact planeswalker. So you sense a theme here. I like cards that have double duty. Heartless Act, still pretty good, premium removal. Power Word Kill, again, almost a staple. I think it's pretty close to being a staple. There's just a lot of dragons out there. And Infernal Grasp, probably the best removal spell the black has, because it kills anything with no prerequisites. You lose 2 life, again, risky. But don't forget Feed the Swarm as well. This kills enchantments as well, so don't forget that. So yeah, essentially, once you've got to this point in the game, once you've got, you know, handful of removal, ramp, card advantage, you can start thinking about synergies. So, what are synergies? Well, to me, synergies are things that go well with your commander. And if you don't have synergy in your deck, then why did you choose the commander? I mean, there's many reasons. It could be a net deck that you didn't build, so you don't know what's in there. It could be a trolley or meme deck, which could be fun because you're just trying to do things that confuse your opponent, which has its own merits. The choice is obviously yours, but in the sake of me guiding you, let's focus on the synergy of Atris, which is just obviously an example. You could focus synergy on any card here. But what you need to do is really properly look and read all the abilities on the card. I know it sounds really obvious, but I see a lot of people build and they don't really think about the nuance of the card. So what I would do is look at literally every aspect of the card and think, how could I work around it? So let's take a look. So here's a human advisor. Okay, what does that tell you? Well, advisor, not really much. Humans, okay, if you want to be a meme deck, maybe build a human deck. That's not going to work out very well on these colours, but the option is there. So now we get into the meat and bones, the actual text box in white. Menace. So weird ability actually. Very aggressive for a very controlling mid-range card. So this is the card that will give you 1 to 2 cards when it comes down. But they decided to give it menace anyway. So, you know, think of that what you will, but menace is a very good keyword for equipment. So you could put swords on this guy, spears, you know, all sorts of weapons. Menace is a combat ability after all. It is not a defensive ability. It is literally the definition of aggressive. You're attacking in and you can't be blocked. So think of that what you will. It doesn't really suit the theme of the card, I don't think. I'm not sure what else they could have given him. I guess it's a flavour thing. Must be something to do with the Greek gods or Roman gods or something in the underworld. But there you go, have to work with what we have. And then obviously the most powerful ability here is enter battlefield. An opponent looks at the top 3 cards of your library and separates them into face-down pile and a face-up pile. Put one of those into your hand and the other in the graveyard. So what does that tell you? Well, it's an ETB trigger. So then what does that tell you? What do you think works well with ETB triggers? So now we start going into, you know, stuff you'll learn just from playing the game over the years. So make sure to turn all the filters off. So here we go, Panharmonicon, the best card in the game for doubling ETB triggers. If an artifact or creature entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of an opponent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So if you have Panharmonicon out and then play Atris, you are getting double the triggers. Pretty simple, right? And there begins your journey. Find a really powerful synergy card that works with your commander and slide it in the deck. And if you don't have it, the synergy card should probably be the first thing you unlock. Even over your ramp, your card advantage and your lands, synergy I think is the most important thing, because technically you could just put 40 basics in the deck and you could still operate the deck, right? It would still work, but without synergy you are not exemplifying your commander's ability, and if you're not doing that, then I don't know why you're building the general. That's what you should be focusing on, to be honest. Yep, so that's one thing. What else does it work with? We'll come back to the ETB effects later on, but we'll just see as a whole picture what else he can be used for. So another thing is graveyard. So let's think about what else we can do with this. Return target creature. Okay, so we need to put in some more search conditions. So we want to put in graveyard to battlefield, right? It's a pretty simple term. So there's a lot of options. Reanimation is a huge sector of the game. It's an entire archetype. So we could go for stuff like Torrential Gearhulk. Now, this is hit onto something really important. This card hits 2 Venn diagrams of this deck. So this card hits the ETB structure of your deck, which is the Panharmonicon doubling triggered abilities, which is what Torrential Gearhulk does, and it also resonates with cards in your graveyard, which is what Atris Oracle of Half-Truths does. Now, you see where I'm going with this. Once you start putting the pieces together like this is the meat and bones of the game to me. The editing, the crafting, the theory crafting. You know, some people don't like this, and that's fine. They won't be watching this video. It's as simple as that. So I presume the people watching this, like you wonderful people, are people who want to learn. Yep, the Venn diagram's crossing over. T-Gear Hulk and Panharmonicon. You want to find as many cards like this as possible that cross over 2 or more facets of your general's abilities. Then we got Skull of the Lost Trove. So now we're looking at spell reanimation, artifact reanimation. You can go all day long. Emery comes in, mills 4 cards. You might want to have more spells, maybe an artifact build, something like that. Then we can go for the original thought which I had with stuff like, where is it? I don't know, stuff like Return Upon the Tide, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So if you put that into the deck, now we're thinking, now we need to put some big creatures in the deck, stuff like Cavalier of Night. This is a really good creature. It comes in, guess what it has? ETB trigger. Comes in, sack a creature, destroy a thing. And guess what he does when he dies? Return a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with mana value 3 or less. This takes a bit more working around because you need a creature that small. Obviously, if Atris was 3 mana, that would be mental. But yeah, as you're building, take a note of your mana curve. So as you can see here, if you turn this off, you can see that it's top heavy at 2, but that's perfect because you can cast more spells. So as you're building, yeah, make sure to not have too many 4, 5, 6 drops. I think that's a death trap people put themselves in, because you're not going to be able to cast multiples of these in one game. If you think the total amount of mana spent in a game, I mean, someone can do the calculations out there, but honestly, it's not going to be what you think. That number is a lot less than you think, just because you're not always going to hit the curve you want to hit, and you're not always going to be able to cast the spells you want to cast. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty decent place to kind of leave it. Obviously, I'm not going to complete the deck. It would be here all day. It's a long process to do something like this. It's not quick. If you want to build from scratch, it takes time, it takes years. Some of my decks have taken years to perfect, to learn from, and you won't just get it from 1 or 2 games in a week. You'll need to playtest it hundreds of times. And if that sounds daunting to you, then this process might not be for you. And you may just enjoy getting someone's deck, like one of mine from my channel, and uploading it to Arena, making it, giving that a go, and enjoying that, and enjoy editing that. You might enjoy that process more. But this is a learning process, and it takes time, just like anything else. It's not going to be instant. I've been playing the game for many years, over a decade, so I hope some of you will gain some knowledge from some of these teachings I've taught you here. So remember the big facets: lands, ramp, card advantage, not too many X spells, and kill spells, Seven Gods Command, stuff like that, and synergy. There's a lot of sectors. There's a lot of things to think about. But yeah, maybe you can rewatch parts of this video to gain a better understanding, and just refer to this video over time, come back to it, and just, you know, use it as a utility. So that's that done for now. So we'll just back out of here, just give you a quick, very quick rundown of how I get my resources to make the cards, because I get asked this a lot as well by people, like, how do you get so many cards and stuff? Well, first things first, I'm a free-to-play player. I have only dropped money on the game about 2 or 3 times in like 3 years, so keep that in mind. It's not impossible. It might be daunting, but what I would suggest is look at the bottom here, all these daily tasks. So you see, you get a fair amount of gold from doing dailies and weeklies, right? So attack with 45 creatures, cast spells. These aren't even win achievements. This is just play the game achievements, and you'll get them over time. So don't fret. You can't have all the best cards to start with. Obviously, if you want to drop money, go for it. You can drop as much money as you want. I'm not stopping you. And another thing I'd suggest is to get the Battle Pass, because with the Battle Pass, you unlock more cards on the second tier on the bottom here. If you only have the regular pass, the free pass at the top, you only unlock the rewards on the top. It's just like, you know, any battle pass, any game, Fortnite, I don't know, Halo, or, you know, every game has these battle passes, mastery passes. And the next thing I'll suggest, once you have accumulated a bit of gold, best way to farm is to go to drafting. So you want to go to, what I normally do is not Premier Drafts, they're too expensive. Quick Drafts. So these would cost you 5k gold. Play these, farm these. Not only do you learn every new card in a set, you keep all the cards that you open in the boosters as well. Look at the prizes you get at the end. 950 gems and 2 packs. Remember, gems are worth a lot more than gold, so you're converting up. And with gems, what I normally do is I get enough for the next season pass, mastery pass. I then unlock that immediately when the new set comes out and start getting more and more and more boosters from the next set. So the process is, do your dailies by practicing your new decks, get 5,000 gold, enter a draft, try your very best to win. If you don't win, it's fine. You know, not everyone's going to win. This is how it is. And you'll learn draft, you'll learn the game, you'll learn the new cards, you'll increase your skills as a player. You would be surprised what you'd learn from doing draft, honestly. It's one of the toughest formats in the entire game. It requires critical thinking. I'm not an expert on draft. I play it a lot, but even though I've been playing it for over 10 years, I'm still not an expert. But yeah, if it's not the format for you, then I guess you could just grind standard, or maybe just historic brawl, regular queue. But yeah, don't fret, it just takes time, and eventually you'll have as many decks as me, which is almost 100-ish, I think. No, maybe not that much. But yeah, I hope you have found some use from this video, and yeah, drop me a comment below if you think I could have added some more things. It's just a very quick, rough guide to get you started in the format if you were feeling a bit scared, a bit overwhelmed. It's just not as bad as you think, is it, really? It's not too bad, especially if you've come from Commander and Paper. It's a breeze. And if you're from 60 card formats, then wish you the best of luck. Drop me a message, see how you just want to see what your reactions are to the video. So yeah, if you have liked the video, if you could leave me a like and possibly subscribe to the channel, that would really help. And don't forget my donation links in the description and affiliate links if you want to buy any cards. Use those links and it helps me out, gives me a bit of commission. So until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Bye. If you've had fun watching this video, don't forget to leave me a like and a sub, and to check out my Ko-fi donations page where you can donate as little or as much as you want. And check out some more videos to keep watching.